Chapter 6. Put on a happy face. I had a very hard time accepting the divorce from my first husband. For almost a year, I felt I had failed as a woman, as a wife, as a person. Being in such an emotional frame of mind caused me to have physical symptoms that several doctors diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. Finally, specialists at the renowned Scott and White Memorial Hospital in Temple, Texas, told me my condition was progressing so rapidly that within a matter of months, I would be totally disabled. I couldn't bear the thought of returning home and having my mother support me and my 3 children. She had worked hard all her life, and asking her to take responsibility for us was an unthinkable prospect. At this time, I was working for Stanley Home Products and making $10 to $12 for each sale demonstration party. I had to give 3 Stanley parties every day if I simply hoped to make ends meet. I realized that in order to be successful, I had to leave my personal problems at home. So I decided that no matter how I felt, I would go in there with a smile. As I succeeded in my career, my health improved, until finally all symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis disappeared. The doctors continued to insist that I was simply in remission and that my arthritis would someday return. So far, they've been dead wrong. I think those physical symptoms were introduced by my extreme emotional stress and stopped when I took control of my attitude. You see, the funny thing about putting on a happy face is that if you do it again and again, pretty soon that happy face is there to stay. It becomes the real you. I discovered that by maintaining a cheerful attitude during those Stanley parties, my problems seemed to go away one by one. Conversely, if I had allowed myself to stay depressed, I wouldn't have done a good job, and I wouldn't have made enough sales commissions. Then I really would have been compounding problems. Someone once said, a man is about as happy as he makes up his mind to be, and I believe that. It had always been my philosophy that a salesperson should never discuss personal problems with customers. I give our consultants 2 suggestions regarding this belief. Number 1, mentally turn off your problems before going to a skincare class. Number 2, when you enter that door, enter with enthusiasm. When people ask, "How are you?" they don't really want to know. They don't care that your husband lost his job, your children have chicken pox, or your water heater just broke. Don't inflict your troubles on them. If you do, it'll cause a negative atmosphere that can only destroy rapport. It's better never to let anyone know that you have a care in the world. When I came through the door at each of those early Stanley parties, little did anyone know that I had left a myriad of problems at home. When the hostess says, "Hello, how are you?" say, "Wonderful, and how are you?" Even if you don't have to say it through clenched teeth. Besides, if you act enthusiastic and happy and you do a good job and come out of that skincare class with $200 in sales, believe me, you will be enthusiastic and happy. It's important to realize that nobody is highly motivated every day. There are times when even the most enthusiastic person will wake up feeling depressed. And yes, I have days when I wake up and just don't feel with it. I might be tired, or I might have something on my schedule that's distasteful. Those are the times when I generate enthusiasm. One step that helps me to do this is to read good motivational books and listen to motivational tapes. I especially like to listen to tapes while I'm dressing and while I'm driving to the office and back home. It's a wonderful way to keep from wasting precious time. Singing also seems to cheer people up. I've told you about the songs we sometimes sing at Mary Kay meetings. Some people have criticized us for this because they think songs are silly. But we have found that when people are in a negative frame of mind, songs have a wonderful effect on their morale. I believe that is the same reason churches begin their services with hymns. As a young mother, I remember driving to church with 3 small children squabbling in the back seat. Sometimes I felt I had lost my religion by the time I got there. I certainly was in no mood to be at church. But after singing 2 or 3 hymns, I felt a lot better. I was ready to absorb my pastor's message. At the beginning of our unit meetings, We also have time when consultants tell about their success and previous week. We encourage each person to stand up and enthusiastically tell the group something wonderful that happened to her. Even if you've had a bad week, after hearing a couple of dozen people talk about how well they've done, you begin to think, if they can do it, I can do it too. A happy face and a happy attitude are always an inspiration to others. Of course, there are times when it takes a special effort to put on a happy face. My beloved husband, Mel Ash, passed away on Monday, July 7th, 1980. Mel had smoked for 47 years. For the last 10 of those years, I begged, cajoled, reasoned, and pleaded with him to stop. He often tried to, but in a few hours he would say, "Mary Kate, I can't stop. I just can't." Then one evening I was reading an article about how you can actually get lung cancer from living with smokers and inhaling secondary smoke. I turned the magazine over on the coffee table, knowing full well that his curiosity would make him look the next morning to see what I had been reading. Sure enough, he picked up that article. Simultaneously, he saw the television commercial for a clinic specializing in helping to kick the smoking habit. Because he loved me and cared about me, he enrolled in the program and 5 days later stopped cold. For the next 5 years, he never touched another cigarette. But it wasn't soon enough. The damage had already been done. We only knew of his lung cancer for 7 weeks before his death. The day after Mel's death, all our staff on the local directors and consultants were scheduled to leave Dallas for a conference in St. Louis. All these people dearly loved Mel, and I held a funeral Tuesday afternoon so that they could attend. Because of Mel's illness, I had not planned to attend the St. Louis conference, but more than 7,500 directors and consultants were gathering from throughout the Midwest, and so I went to St. Louis on the following Friday. I knew that many women would be spending a good deal of money to travel to the conference, and I felt an obligation not to let them down. These meetings are supposed to be joyful, inspirational times. And so even though I was grief-stricken, I made certain that I generated a positive attitude for everyone present. I went out in front of that large audience, and I did my best to project the happiness I felt for them, rather than the sorrow I felt for myself. I knew that my mood would influence everyone there, and I wanted them to have a positive experience. I kept thinking of Jackie Kennedy Onassis and how gorgeous she was when her husband was assassinated. The whole world praised her for her courage. She wouldn't allow herself the luxury of breaking down, and her strength had a tremendous impact on many other people. Later, when they faced tragedies in their own lives, they remembered how she had kept her head up, not crying in public, and they knew that they could do it too. In my own small way, I was trying to do the same thing at our gathering. Since then, I've received countless letters from women telling me that the fact that I was able to put on a happy face during my grief and inspire them to do the same thing when they've suffered a tragedy in their own lives. Life has many sad moments, but living must always go on. Just a few days before our 1978 seminar, another tragedy occurred. Sue Vickers, one of our most beautiful and talented national sales directors, was kidnapped in the parking lot of a Dallas shopping center and murdered. Sue was known in our company as Miss Enthusiasm, and her warmth and go-give spirit were an inspiration to everyone who knew her. Her death was a tremendous tragedy to all of us. Sue was scheduled to give a speech at the 1978 seminar. Among her notes for the presentation, she had written, "Be somebody, be great. I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. Do big things. Don't give up. Be an inspiration to others. What the world needs is a word of good cheer, enthusiasm, love, and laughter." These thoughts clearly illustrated the kind of person Sue was. Her senseless death was a great loss to me, as well as to everyone else who knew her. But we put on our happy faces and dedicated the seminar to Sue, and went on as scheduled. I'm sure that's the way Sue would have wanted it. It's easy to smile and be enthusiastic when everything is going along perfectly in your life. Under ideal circumstances, anyone can project cheerfulness, but the real test of champion is being able to put on a happy face when deep down you're suffering with serious personal problems. One such champion is Rena Talbert, mother of 3 and a national sales director. So positive and cheerful. You would never know that she had had 2 mastectomies and reconstructive surgery. Rena has an attitude that is an inspiration to everyone. She's so enthusiastic. She loves life. She loves her work, and she never lets illness stop her. She often tells a wonderful story about something that happened while she was waiting to be tested at MD Anderson Hospital and Tumor Research Institute at Houston. She had waited much of the day and was next in line when the head nurse announced that the remaining patients that the doctor would be unable to see anyone else until the following afternoon. Rena had a Mary Kay workshop to conduct the next day, so she went out to the physician and told him that she had to be in Dallas the following afternoon. Is there any reason why you couldn't just see just one more patient today, doctor? She asked. He thought for a moment, and because of her smiling attitude, and consented to her request. When she first told me the story, she beamed. I used the same selling techniques you taught me, she said. The one where we ask a woman, is there any reason why you couldn't be a hostess for a skincare class? After her workshop, Rena told me what the doctor had found. She would have to receive chemotherapy and radiation treatments for several months, and it was likely that she would lose her hair. But she just smiled and said, guess I'll have to get myself a really pretty wig, Mary Kay. As I listened to Rena talk so positively, I admired her serene and cheerful expression. I had to fight to hold back my tears, and it took everything I had to take my own advice and put on a happy face. Yet, as I looked at Rena's happy face, I knew I could do no less. Recently, she told another gathering that her spirits were high and her determination was unyielding. She shared with us a quote from Montaigne's essay, "The value of life lies not in the length of days, but in the use we make of them. A man may live long, yet get little from life. Whether you find satisfaction in life depends not on your tale of years, but on your will." As Rena spoke those words, I looked at her and I was filled with pride. I knew she truly discovered the meaning of life. I gave her a big hug, and thankfully, only my happy emotions came pouring out. After undergoing 6 years of chemotherapy, Rena's cancer has been in remission for many years. She has served as an inspiration to all of us.